Hey everyone, it's Jacqueline at Pixie Dust PhD. Pretty recently, my partner and I decided to buy a direct contract through Disney Vacation Club at the Villas at Disneyland Hotel. In this video, I will share with you the process of doing that, so stay tuned. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to share more about our adventures with buying villas at Disneyland Hotel with you. There certainly will be a few videos on the channel about this, so be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Then you can ring the bell icon to receive notifications whenever I upload new videos. And a brief note, in this video, we'll pretty much just be going over the process of us going ahead and buying that contract. I'm going to save a vast majority of my opinions for a separate video, so again, stay tuned to the channel for that. All right, so I did some prep work. This absolutely was not necessary, but I definitely had some questions. I had no idea who my guide was, so I felt like I wanted to get some things out of the way before sales began. For existing members, sales did begin on May 2nd. I called into Disney Vacation Club about a week prior to this to inquire about villas at Disneyland Hotel. At that time, someone from Member Services told me that I didn't have a guide assigned to me. I bought in as a resale member, so I did all of that kind of on my own and with the resale company, didn't really interact with DVC directly. Resale members do typically still have a guide assigned to them, even if you aren't aware of it. If you literally don't have a guide, it probably means that whoever was assigned to you left the company and you just never got a replacement guide. So I was guideless and then they assigned me a guide. I think the way this happened is they just saw who was available at the time and put me on their list. I was then transferred to speak with my guide and we talked about a lot of the basics for villas at Disneyland Hotel. They told me about pricing, the general annual dues, as well as how annual dues would be prorated in 2023. As an existing member, I have one contract. It has an August use year, so my guide told me that the Villas at Disneyland Hotel contract I would buy would automatically also have an August use year. My guide let me know that reservations for villas at Disneyland Hotel would begin on May 16th, so if I bought in early enough and had my points, I could start making reservations that early, starting May 16th. And I asked a couple questions around logistics for the transient taxes, as well as how I would actually make payments for the contract. Specifically, my partner and I planned to pay for this contract in cash. My guide let me know then that on the day we executed the contract, we would owe at least 10% of the total plus the closing costs. And then otherwise, the rest of the balance would be due in 30 days. I could split this up over credit cards. I could wire over money, plenty of options. Just a brief side note, when I spoke to my guide later in this process, they said that I could have up to 60 days. So I'm not sure if it's 30 days or 60 days. Mentally, I just went with 30 days. If you are looking at buying direct through Disney and not paying in cash, some things will be different here. We did not discuss financing at all. It's not something I am interested in. In my opinion, for me and my partner, a timeshare is absolutely not a necessity. So if we can't afford to pay it off pretty much right away, I would say then we can't afford it. We have been saving pretty aggressively for this and had the cash ready. We are both just personally kind of against financing because it's already such a large purchase. I don't want to add interest on top of that. So I don't really know any of the details of if you are going to finance your purchase directly with Disney Vacation Club, although there were a few things that were alluded to in this prep work conversation. First, apparently, if you finance, your closing costs are going to be much higher than if you are paying in cash. And second, if you are going to finance the contract, it seems like you will have to have that notarized. That was most of the work for the prep call. It really didn't take that long. My guide let me know that incentives would not be released until the day sale started on May 2nd, so I would have to wait for that. But otherwise, I basically just got on their list for a call back that day to purchase. So we waited about a week, and then it was the day that sales would begin. On that morning of May 2nd, incentives were released. Interestingly, DVCnews.com posted these before I ever saw them officially, but my guide did eventually email the official incentives over to me. Based on the incentive information, my partner and I then made the decision to buy 150 points. We were going back and forth between 100 and 150 prior to seeing incentives. I'll talk about this decision more in a different video later on the channel, but with the way the incentives were, we just went for the 150 ultimately. A little before noon on May 2nd, my guide did call me, so I was on their callback list and they did call. I, however, was wrapped up in a work meeting, so couldn't take the call. My partner and I both finished up our work meetings for the day. We both work from home, which is very convenient for days like this, so we called the guide back around 3:30 p.m. I figured that we would be on hold for a while. I figured that our guide would be actively talking to someone about their contract, but much to my surprise, our guide picked up right away, and so off we went. We told our guide that we wanted to buy the 150 point contract and reconfirmed that we would pay in cash. Our guide then took down our credit card information and we set up a payment plan over the next 30 days of various cards being charged various amounts on different days across the next month. Our guide insisted on reviewing a few high-level details that they felt were very important to communicate. Specifically, this was that we were getting an August use year and that there is a difference between the 11-month and 7-month booking window, whether you're at your home resort or not. But yeah, that was kind of it. It was a pretty short call, definitely didn't take much time. Our guide let us know that they would submit the contract pretty soon to quality assurance and review and that we would receive an electronic version to sign in the next few days. Given the volume that they were dealing with, our guide said, normally this comes very fast, but it might be 48 hours or even a little bit longer. I do briefly just want to point out that you getting electronic documents to sign may not be available in your state. States have different laws that regulate timeshares and these types of things, so you might have to do paper copies. We live in a place that allows us to do all of this electronically. But yeah, that was pretty much it. It was pretty fast. We had pretty minimal interaction with the guide, honestly, and it felt overall fairly informal for handing over tens of thousands of dollars. It was a quick phone call. Here's what we want. Here's the credit card. Okay, you'll get a contract. See you later. Our guide was definitely trying to get off the phone, and I respect that they certainly had plenty of calls to do and plenty of contracts to execute, but I did kind of insist on getting a total dollar amount. At no point during this call did they tell me how much the actual cost would be. Our guide said that they would need some time to calculate that. Apparently calculating the closing costs is not super straightforward, which I find a bit odd, but whatever. So they said that they would do that and get back to me. Our guide did call back about a half hour later, probably after working on executing our contract. They were then able to provide us the total cost for the points overall, as well as minus that incentive value, and then also the additional closing costs that we would owe. And in this callback, our guide did verify if we were married or not. Both my partner and I are named on the deed, so it is a little bit different if you are living together and single or married. This was all wrapped up around early afternoon, and I wasn't expecting to see a contract for a couple of days. Much to my surprise, we got something from DocuSign around 5:30 p.m. that night. I spent about an hour reading the actual contract very closely. Then there's also a bunch of collateral documents that you have to attest to that they were available to you and that you did read them. I skimmed them. I wouldn't say I did a deep read. Some of the collateral documents are pretty long, but I have access to them so I can always go back to them if I want. I was mostly concerned making sure that the pricing and everything in the contract was right. So yes, I took some time to really go through that with a fine-tooth comb, and then both my partner and I did our e-signatures. From there, I'm not totally sure what the process is, to be honest. My guide told me that it would go to the QA team to be reviewed and signed. In the past, when I've used DocuSign for apartment leases and similar, we sign and then someone else signs, and once that other person signs and the contract's executed, DocuSign usually tells us that happens and sends us a fully signed contract. That didn't happen in this case. My partner and I signed that evening. They haven't heard from the QA team. Oh, whatever. I was not obsessively checking on my membership status by any means, so I don't have exact timing for you here, but I was able to log into DisneyVacationClub.com and see that the points were loaded into our account that evening. So a couple hours max. We had issues with the booking page for about 2 days during this process, so I could log into DVC and look at my dashboard and all that, but if I went to book a vacation, I would constantly get the Rex, there's been an error here. So I think the vacation points were loaded into my account, but I couldn't necessarily use them. But hey, they were there like pretty much instantaneously, if you ask me. As an existing resale restricted member, my membership shows up as DVC ND. That means that I don't qualify for any of the fun membership benefit extras. But that night, May 2nd, on DisneyVacationClub.com, if I went to view my temporary membership card, it now did say DVCY. It did take a little bit longer for the Magic Mobile Pass that you add into your phone wallet to update. You get your Magic Mobile Pass from the My Disney Experience app, and then once it's in your wallet and you hit info, it will either say DVC ND or DVCY. Mine retained the DVC ND for a couple days before it finally updated to Y. And I did actually delete the Magic Mobile Pass I had and re-download a new one to get that Y status. For payments, just like the guide said, that first day that you execute your contract, you have to pay at least 10% plus closing costs. So for us, that first charge hit our credit card on May 2nd. Then we set up a schedule of payments with our guide on the phone. Additional charges will be coming on May 11th, May 23rd, and June 1st. And we will owe dues on the 2023 points in the future. However, those were not charged as part of this process. I was advised that I would owe dues once the resort opened, presumably on September 28th. We did elect to pay dues in one lump sum, so we'll pay that lump sum. If you elect to pay them monthly, I assume you can just pay them monthly as per usual. So that wraps up our buying day on May 2nd. All in all, it was pretty exciting. We got our 150 points. They loaded into our account. Our temporary membership card showed that we were full DVC members now. Hooray. Then on May 7th, I learned about Magical Beginnings. Thanks to the internet and big thanks to DVCnews.com. Magical Beginnings is a promotion where you effectively sell back your first use year's worth of points, and then they give you some amount of money per point back. This changes somewhat frequently. If you are interested, definitely speak to a DVC guide about it and what the eligibility is at the time. Not that long ago, I believe, for Grand Floridian contracts, you were only getting $10 a point back, which is not that great. But the current promotion that DVCnews.com reported was $22 per point, which is pretty good. My partner and I have no immediate plans to use that 2023 use year's allotments of points, so we were all in and getting $22 per point back. Frankly, we had mentally figured that we would rent the points out anyway, and $22 a point is probably better than we'll get from any rental site. But again, I didn't learn about this promotion until May 7th. My guide didn't mention it to me in our prep call or any time during the purchase call. I called in on May 7th, and it is a bit complicated, but ultimately we were able to get a contract addendum to allow for Magical Beginnings to be applied. And I was told that at this time you do have to buy at least 150 points directly through Disney to qualify for Magical Beginnings, and you have to do the full use year's allotment of points. So you can't sell back like half of your use year's points. You also can't sell multiple use years of points back to them. It's just your first use year in full, $22 a point, that's it. And unlike incentive pricing where that amount is actually taken off the amount that you're sending to DVC, Magical Beginnings is more like a mail-in rebate. So within 30 days from our contract closing, we'll receive a check in the mail for the amount that Magical Beginnings was worth. It's not taken off of the total contract price at the beginning. For us, our last payment is set up to be June 1st, which is when our contract will officially close. So we should receive that check in the mail no later than July 1st. And of course, you can use that check for whatever you want. If you want to send it right back to Mickey, feel free. We'll be using it to help pay off our credit card. Overall, the process was very fast. I was genuinely shocked how fast everything moved on May 2nd. I really didn't think that we would have a contract until a day or two later, and I thought that it would take a couple of days to load points into our account even. But we had all 150 points available the same day that we purchased, even with the high volume of sales that they were doing. From that standpoint, it seemed like a really well-oiled machine, and certainly all the cast members on the quality assurance side that are doing the contract review, big props to them. And overall, it felt really kind of casual and informal, which I thought was a bit odd for such a large purchase. I think this will likely vary depending on your guide and their style, and frankly, the quality of the knowledge that they have. I am planning on doing a future video comparing and contrasting buying a contract directly through Disney versus the resale market, but there are ways with which this felt like, hey, I'm just calling someone up, giving them the credit card information, they're gonna charge $30,000 to it, great, as opposed to the resale process felt more formal, more regimented for sure. And you already saw a hint of this with Magical Beginnings having to be added to my contract after we'd already executed it and made our first payment, but the quality of guide is pretty variable. I'm definitely going to talk about this more, probably in the next video that gets uploaded on the channel. So if you want my opinions on things, for sure stay tuned. I hope you found this helpful and maybe it demystified a bit of the process of buying a contract directly through Disney Vacation Club. This was a new experience for me, and I am happy to report that overall it moved pretty fast, and if I look at big picture things, it went pretty well, all things considered. If you've ever bought a contract directly through Disney, I would love to hear in the comments down below how that process was for you. And particularly if you have financed that purchase, if there were big extra hurdles or hoops to jump through or costs, I would love to be enlightened about that. I'm also fairly sure it's a lot harder if you're not a resident of the United States. So if you live beyond the US and you have executed a contract with Disney Vacation Club, I would also love to hear about that. Like I said, there's more content coming on our purchase for villas at Disneyland Hotel, so definitely stay tuned. I super appreciate your support. May the rest of your day be magical, and we'll see you real soon at Pixie Dust PhD.